So I handle my business and I still made it to D1.
Still talking about you, man. He could have went NBA.
Hey, I wake up in the morning, Harold Jr. gone out hustling. That boy always had money on his mind.
I got big goals. Y'all think I'm crazy as a motherfucker with my goals. I may achieve them, I may not. But if I don't achieve them, I know I will have achieved something great along that process.
Okay. York Sims, born and raised in Clarksville, Arkansas. Grew up playing basketball. Got 3 siblings, a younger brother, 2 older sisters. And it was my mom and dad, so it was 6 of us in the household growing up. We didn't have hoods or projects or nothing like that, but we was from the slums. We was probably the poorest, black family in our town. So if that lets you know anything. Man, what my parents wasn't doing, they never worked a 9 to 5. They're both hustlers, so they was both in the streets. So that's all, all we knew.
So where are we heading right now?
Yeah, my hometown, Clarksville, Arkansas. It's about 9,000 people, I'd say. It was the middle one. The M one was too short and this one was too tall. So yeah, bro, we'd park the car, turn the lights on, we'd go at it. All this shit wasn't here. It was these 2 roads right here. So all the black folks, like my grandparents, they all lived in these houses over here. So we lived in this house. There's only 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a living room. And the kitchen was part of the living room.
Yeah, so, went through all the struggles that all the black families or any poor family goes through. Well, my mom and dad they had their struggles, in life with drugs and whatnot. They was in and out of jail, in and out of prison, and then that led to me, my younger brother, and my sister not necessarily getting adopted, like having to go through foster care. Like we were placed with other families before. A lot of people pitched in, a lot of help. Like I say, my house burnt down twice and the community gave us clothes and all that shit. So everybody told me, you can be whatever you want to be in life, me being young, playing, I was like, man, listen, I'm gonna bounce this ball and that's it. Not really understanding what they was really saying, like, nah, bro, you can really be whatever. You ain't gotta limit yourself to this basketball shit. Yeah, man, so my initial entry to basketball, my dad came home with some plywood and a milk crate. Nailed the plywood to the back of the house, the milk crate to that. He handed us the basketball, and that was our introduction to basketball. And my dad introduced the swimming, baseball. He carved us our first baseball bats out of wood, out of 2x4, for the simple fact that we sat there and watched him carve them things and sweat all day. Me and my brother was like, man, we're gonna jump into this baseball. But man, once he gave us the basketball go, man, it was over. Me and my brother could play all day. So let's see, I was in the 3rd grade when I first started playing organized basketball. I used to bust everybody's ass at school. So one of my friends, Dustin, he was like, man, you need to come play on this organized Boys and Girls Club team with us. I was like, man, my dad ain't going for that. So if you and your pops want to come over and talk to my dad about it, I'm for it. Dustin and Jody came over and I had them ask, you ask him. And so they asked my dad, hey, can York Jr. come play ball on our Boys and Girls Club? And my dad looked at me and he asked me if I wanted to play, and I'd kind of mumbled, yeah, kind of like I did and didn't. But he knew I wanted to play. My dad was like, all right, if you want to play, he can play, but y'all got to come pick him up. Y'all got to pay for his entry fee. Y'all got to buy him some basketball shoes. Pretty much whatever he needs, y'all got to get it for him. And Jody, he agreed to it. He was like, say no more. But once I got to playing in front of people and organize and remembering plays and all that, my first year was, man, I was terrible. That was, kind of my motivation going forward. After that year, the same kid that introduced me, he got selected for the All-Star team at the end of the year. He's breaking down to me. That's when, the best kids from Boys Club, they get together, So now the kids from the county go play other counties, So I'm like, oh, I was happy for. No, I wasn't. I was envious in the motherfucker. I was like, what? Everybody know at school I'm the best player, and how am I not on this team? And so then I just, I took everything up on myself, and I just went to work. So fast forward the next year, I'm in the 4th grade, and now brought my brother on my team. It was me and my cousin Bradley. Long story short, I put all that shit together. We didn't lose the game. And then, it just started to click. I tried to imitate everything that I seen MJ and them guys do. And I did that shit 24/7. My family would tell you, I got selected to All-Star, so I was playing local BCI from there. Now, I really didn't get any attention until I was in high school, till I was going to the 11th grade. The family that I moved in with, it was Gary and Linda Thompson. He was a longtime basketball coach at our high school. And then once he retired, a few years passed, and his son, Jake Thompson, ended up being the high school coach of our high school. So it was 10th grade when I really started to pop off. But I only played those first 4 or 5 games of the season. In 10th grade, I got kicked off the team, so I was a little immature, let me say it like that. But coach, he was always trying to set examples, and my cousin Dexter, he tried to make an example out of Dexter one day and slapped the ball out of Dexter's hand, threw the ball on the other side of the court, told Dexter to go get it. Dexter was like, man, fuck you. And me, I died laughing. Yeah, but that's all I did, bro. I just laughed, and he ain't like that. So I'm like, man, whatever, nigga, you need me. So I take my jersey off, boom, take it between the legs, dunk it, I'm up out of here. And yeah. A couple of days later at school, he's like, I want you back on the team. We went. I left that meeting, I went and hollered at Coach T. Coach T is Gary Thompson, who adopted me. We'll just say that at that point, even though it wasn't a formal adoption. He came with the idea of, it might be just best just to sit out. And I knew the reason. I knew he wanted Coach Harris up out of there. So Jake could get the high school job. Everybody knew that. But what he told me was, sit out this year, work out, and then he'll get me on one of the best AAU teams so I can get national exposure, which is what I needed anyway. And so now he gets me a tryout with the Arkansas Wings. These guys, they've been hooping together for a minute, so it's really hard to get a roster spot on these guys' team, because they, the guys can hoop. I ain't give a fuck about none of that. You know what I'm saying? When we were in between them white lines, bruh, it was like, that's when I could really be myself, So as soon as he blew that whistle, boom, one dribble, 360, and dunked that motherfucker. And I'm only 6'2", and I'm going crazy like that. Long story short, I ended up being the best player on that team that year. We ended up top 10 in the country. Hell of a squad. We had a hell of a squad, and that was all I needed. So now 11th grade come in, everybody calling. UConn and Oklahoma State was on my ass, and both of them were in the Final Four my senior year. So, I was having the pick of the litter. Now I'm going into my junior year, confidence sky the fuck high. So, it was a come in, these junior, senior year, beat the hell out of everybody. At worst, get a scholarship to a top 10 school. At best, you never know what can happen. You know what I'm saying? And at this time, I'm back in my folks' house. So at this point, my mom had already went to prison. So my mom is already in prison. There was so much going on at home and all that it was really hard for me to focus on, sports and school. Beginning of my senior season, shit was going great up until a month into the school year. A guy supposedly he had called one of my cousins a nigga. His car was parked at the school, so we stopped at the school, and niggas just started whooping up on his car. Anyway, one of the dudes ended up telling, once the police got involved, we ended up getting charged with a felony, but we were all minors at the time. So once we all turned 18, the felony would fall off our record. I get in trouble for that, and they don't allow me to play basketball. We're really in the state of Arkansas. So the only way that I could play basketball my senior year was transfer out of state. I packed up my shit. My dad drove me to Memphis to stay with my aunt in Memphis. And it wasn't just, it wasn't the sweetest, area, to try to be going around mingling with folks you didn't know. So I stayed to myself. I went to school, went to practice, and I came home. And that was really it. And I ain't like that shit. I'd rather go back home for the second semester, graduate with my friends, and say, fuck basketball. My decision was made easy. So, like I said, I played like 10 games at Millington Central. School started digging, and they figured out that I was living with my aunt. She wasn't my legal guardian. Before a game, the principal came to me and was like, York, you can't play today. And I was like, okay, sound good. But I was like, man, fuck this. I'm really going home now. So I packed up and I went back to Arkansas. And that shit was hard because I had to watch, this team that I had built over my lifetime play without me. But, that's when life really set in. And like I say, my mom was in prison. My dad, he wasn't doing too great. So, I had to get a job. Moved in with my cousin Joseph. I got a job at Tyson Foods. And I went to school from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. From 5 to 2 a.m. I go work full time at Tyson, get off work, get me a couple of Z's, do all that shit all over again. So that was kind of ending out my senior year. Like, I had put basketball to the side. I wasn't focused on going, to college. I was just trying to make a little bit of money. I had every excuse in the world, just to kick my feet up. And that was kind of the direction I was going in, man. But one day at work, I had got a call from Arkansas Little Rock assistant coach, Brad Autry. And he asked what I was doing. He hadn't seen that I had signed anywhere. So he was like, I can get you into a prep school or I can get you into a junior college. You just let me know which one you wanted to do. So I was like, man, you know what? I take the junior college route. He connected me with a coach in Carthage, Texas at Panola College. So, I graduated. I went off to Carthage, Texas. So drove down there first day of school, met the coach, and I hadn't touched a fucking basketball since I had left Memphis. First game, and I played decent, man, but I ended up having the biggest blisters on my feet, and that's when coach was like, oh, you really ain't played basketball in a minute. And he didn't know nothing about me really. So, he just put me on the end of the bench, and that was the first time that, I had even touched the bench in my life. So my freshman year, as I'm not playing, my dad get popped again. My mom ended up getting out of prison right when I graduated. So it was like the motherfuckers traded off. As soon as my mama got out, my daddy went in. So all that was a mental hurdle. And I was like, man, fuck this. I'd rather go back to work at Tyson because college basketball is hard, and I had talked to one of my teammates, and he had told me a story about, his little brother and how his little brother was handicapped. That reminded me of my little brother, same situation, he handicapped as well. And he would kill to be in the position that I was in. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna suck it up and I'm just gonna, I'm gonna be the hardest worker on the team. And that's what I did. I went hard than a motherfucker. So this coach, he didn't play me until we got to our conference tournament. We was getting our ass blew out. And so, the last 5 minutes, he put the reserves in. I was like, man, I'm finna go work on these niggas. I come in three, still yam that motherfucker. That coach called timeout. He put his whole starting five back in. Well, anyway, shit had simmered down, but after that game, I was feeling good about basketball again. So I go from Panola, now I'm transferring to Northern Oklahoma and Enid. This is like my, my second chance. I'll take to the end of basketball. I was in Turkey and I had flew back to Chico for Cesar Chavez, which is the big celebration in Chico. You know, they shut down the town for the holiday. Everybody's just drinking and shit and having fun.
That's part of the partying.
I seen one of my homies pull up in the car, so I just walked up to the car with a beer in my hand. And the police seen me walk up to the street with a beer and, put me on the curb and gave me an open container ticket. As I'm sitting on the curb, one of the black dudes, I didn't know him, he was from Sacramento at the time, they took his ass to jail. After they had let me go, some drunk ass white dude ran up on me and was like, talking about why they ain't haul my black ass up to jail with him. And, like I say, I was already pissed off, and that's when my life really changed for the worst. We was jawing back and forth for, man, like I say, it's three of my, my teammates, and I'm really the littlest one in the group. So there wasn't no need to even jump this cat or nothing. And I just socked his ass one time. He didn't even fall. He kind of just staggered. And then he got up and, turned around and walked away like nothing happened. And I knew someone right. I didn't know what it was, but I knew someone right. So Saturday, our dogs, about 9 o'clock at night, the dogs are just going crazy. I go walk to the door to see what's going on. Man, and it had to be 20 motherfucking unmarked cars out there. Like, they was coming to get me like I was OJ. What the police was actually picking me up on was, you remember I was in probation in Arkansas, from the situation in 2004 in high school. Now, I had to complete that without getting in trouble and pay off my restitution before I would even get off probation. So whenever I get picked up that day, it's not even about the fight. So I'm like, fuck. So, and I know once I deal with the Arkansas shit, I'm gonna have to come right back to Cali and deal with this. Blessing in disguise. So I used to hoop with my DA's son back in Clarksville, Arkansas. The DA said, man, you know what? He only has $1,500 to pay off on his restitution. He ain't got no trouble. So he was like, you pay off this $1,500 restitution and we'll leave you for California. The second I paid Arkansas, California hit me with the fight. And they charged me with assault with seriously bodily injury. And now, I got to fight this shit. So that time in my life took every ounce of confidence, swag. It was the most humbling but humiliating time of my life. I can't lie. It was just, like one thing after another. Like, I never felt like I could get over the hump, and it was all, my own fault. So I was like, man, York, you made your motherfucking bed, you sleep in it, So, the quicker you get through this shit, the quicker you'll be able to get back, to doing what you do. Yeah, so they sentenced me under 20 days. I ended up doing 49 of those. Yeah, and that was it, man. So I get out, I went and registered for anger management. And that's when I went and got a job at Trader Joe's to show them that I had a job. Went through my probation, and I had to tell her my story. I had to tell her what happened. And she was like, you just went through all that for punting. She was like, York, tell me what you really did. So she immediately puts me on unsupervised probation. She was like, I don't want to see you for 3 years. I completed the anger management, and it was therapy. I ain't have shit to lose, and I had to do it. So yeah, I took anger management, therapy serious to the point to where even once I was done, I kept going to therapy. So that's when I left all that tough guy, angry shit, all that shit in the past. Because that was the first time in my life I ever felt like I could talk to somebody. It's really hard to talk to, a lot of folks about this shit. Why your parents is locked up and why I'm getting in trouble. I got this golden ticket sitting right in front of me, but I can't stay focused, to capitalize on this opportunity of playing basketball and shit. So, therapy helped me put all this shit into perspective, and was like, hey, well, just like you've done every other time in your life, take as much pride in working at Trader Joe's, and that's, eventually going to lead you to something great. And that's exactly what I did, to the point to where customers would come in and see me. Like, that's how much pride I took in it. But even when shit goes good, like folks still break down. And I remember kind of my turning point from Trader Joe's was I was in a parking lot one day, collecting the grocery carts. And I was just reflecting on my junior year of high school up until this point, which was like, say, only been 4 years. I went from getting to choose whatever school I wanted to go to pushing baskets in the middle of the summer at Trader Joe's. I just broke down thinking about all this shit. I was like, bro, this is not going to be my story, And at that time, like going through the jail shit and all the shit I had been through, like I developed stomach ulcers. And it was just from stress. I stressed myself to the point where I had got ulcers. And at Trader Joe's, I would open up every morning. So I get to the store at 4 a.m. We'd get the store open by, 5, 6 o'clock. I have to go run in the bathroom and throw up. My coworkers, he kept talking about, man, I think this tincture will help your stomach. After a few more episodes, I was like, man, why not? I ain't moving, I ain't really getting drug tested. So I took the little tincture, and it was about a week, and it just clicked at that moment. I was like, fuck, bro, I ain't threw up in about a week. And that was really when I knew I was going to just jump in head first, and not necessarily, the high. I wasn't infatuated with the high. But like I said, I was in this transition in my life to where, I felt like I had caused enough havoc to where I wanted to do something good. And I knew that this plant could do something good and I can make a shit ton of money, and so it was worth leaving a good job with great insurance, to start growing weed essentially. Like I was actually getting promoted in Trader Joe's, but I needed to be free. And that's kind of whenever I just jumped face first into the cannabis world. I know my haters been curious, so here you go. Just in case y'all wondering how my shit turned out. We produced that real dope smoke. Elite 8. Holler at us. Actually, don't holler at us. We don't need your business. My first home grow, I was in Chico in an apartment. One of my homies, Jose, he used to grow weed in his closet, and he had built like this little aeroponic system. And like I say, I'm at the point where, I'm going to see all my partners' grows, but nobody would tell you shit at this point. And so, but he was like, man, look, I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. So what we ended up doing was I had a 2-bedroom apartment, and I gutted one of the rooms. So, and we built the same system that he had, but we just built it bigger. We used the whole room instead of just a closet. So that was my first experience actually growing. It ended up being some decent shit, but I was ready to get that shit up out of there because doing this shit in my apartment is cool, but man, let's go grab a piece of property. So what I was going to do was I was going to buy up, 2 to 4 acres, and I was going to take a piece of property, split it in 2, develop both of them, sell one, keep one. I found a piece of property, a 2-acre spot in Rancho Tehama. Bought the property, bought a mobile home. Once I bought the mobile home, that's when I learned about, okay, well, you got to get permits to, drill your well, your septic. I had excavated 3 pads, 1 pad for the house, like another middle pad tier, and that's where we put the well. And then I did another pad on the back end of the property, and that's where we put a 24 by 60 greenhouse. So now I'm dating my wife now. Once my wife moved to Sac and I moved out to Sac, I drove back and forth from Sacramento to Rancho Tehama every motherfucking day for like 2 years. And my wife was the one who was like, so she was like, man, just do a project in Sacramento. And my first thought was, hell no, everything got to be indoor. But the wear and tear of driving every day, 2 hours one way, 2 hours back, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and find me a spot in Sacramento. I didn't want to add another mini split to reduce heat, so I took out 8 of the double ends and I replaced them with 8 platinum LEDs, and now my temp is A1. So I had linked up with this real estate dude named Abdul. And my plan was, you know what, I'll come with to build out the facility, to get everything started. He comes with the real estate and takes care of the licensing. If I would have did my homework, I would have known that that building wasn't even in the right zone. for them to issue a cannabis cultivation license. And so I went in, tore them all down, built out 2 flower rooms, a bedroom. Literally, man, we get this thing day 30 into veg. Abdul comes in with another guy, and he just tells me he sold the building to these Russian cats. He was like, man, we ain't even in the right zone. And man, if I had ever been hit with a curveball in life, that was probably the biggest curveball. At this point, I didn't want to hear nothing. So I had just tore down this whole building, rebuilt it, got it rocking and rolling, and I already had, to give up on that situation. And bro, that shit sent me into such a big depression. I didn't take nothing else out that fucking building. Took my flower and I got the fuck up out of there. Like I say, every situation I go through, I try to learn something out of it. I was too green in that situation. I was like, man, you know what? I'm gonna go work for a cannabis company in Sacramento, just so I can see how this legal business is operating. So, I had went to LBS in Sacramento, saw how they were, networking in the space. And I was like, okay, well, shit, this shit ain't rocket science. But also at the same time, I had to stack back up my bread because I had, lost everything. And, it got to a point where I was like, man, I feel like I can apply for my own licenses. I've already bought and developed some land, pulled permits. So I was like, man, shit, it's time for me to, do another project from the ground up. Land out here is expensive, and Oklahoma, was the most small brick business friendly market. And like I say, I had a deep love for Oklahoma. Like Oklahoma, helped me revive my college career. And so the Oklahoma was an easy decision. Me and my wife had talked about it. Well, we were like, all right, I'm gonna go out here, I'm gonna build this shit out in 6 to 8 months, and then I'm coming back to Cali, and hopefully I'll be able to get things operational, in that amount of time. That wasn't the case. 6 months turned into 2 years very fast. But that was a go, man. I went out there and I bought a 10-acre lot. We ended up getting 6 3,000 square foot greenhouses. And I did the same process. We got our well dug, didn't have to get a septic. It took us a while to get our greenhouses built. Once we get them built, my wife's pregnant. We had to come up with another agreement. So we found out in May. The agreement was just go hard until Zuri comes, but once the baby gets here, all this traveling back and forth is over with. But it was one of the most defining moments of my life. Like I've never been so sure about anything in my life up until this moment. Because like I say, my family was in and out of jail and prison all my life. And I was always in and out of some shit. I could never wait to have my own family, and raise my family, my way. And so once, we knew we were having, Zuri, it didn't matter how much I loved anything. I was going home, so I'm not even gonna make it seem like it was really a conversation about how long I was gonna stay in Oklahoma because it didn't have to be. And I appreciate my wife for giving me, the time that she did, because, being pregnant with me traveling back and forth to Oklahoma to Cali every week for 5 months, I mean, it's hard. And so that's what I agreed to. So, man, I literally, I worked 20-hour fucking days out there on that farm. That time approached and I had to, kind of put my guys in the position to, really just take over things. And I'm already putting together, what I'm gonna do in California, because I know I'm not gonna be able to travel back to Oklahoma, how I need to. I had mentioned I decided
that I was gonna do the California project on J Street. A couple of my homies, was starting brands. So I was like, man, you know what? I need to start a brand. And so I was at my wife's parents' house, and I was telling them I need to come up with a brand name. What I want to do is I want to tie in my two passions in life, which is basketball and weed. Elite Eight is one of the most renowned portions of the NCAA tournament. It's the final 8 teams before you get to the final 4. And so me and my wife throwing all this back and forth, and my wife's mom just walked by, and like I say, she don't smoke weed. She's like, how about Elite Eight? And I was like, damn, you know what? I had to say it a couple of times, and I was like, man, you know what? That's what I'm going with. At this time, I think I was 33, and I was going through this whole numbers thing to where I was always seeing the number 33 and shit, and I was like, oh, boom, Elite Eight. I want to do 2 E's, which look like 33, but turn it backwards so it don't look like 2 3s. And then I shelved all that shit. Going through this build out phase of J Street. Once they put me out the building, I just stopped everything. So I didn't really pick back up on Elite Eight until I started working at LBS. So I was like, okay, well, now that I ain't got my growth, so I ain't gonna have no flower to get to market, I need to, get my brand name out there. Just to keep the Elite Eight brand name going, I was going to, do some clothing, do some jackets, until I could get together a team to where, we could, do everything simultaneously. And that's kind of where, I'm at right now. I'm still, learning a lot about marketing and branding. I want to be, in every market where cannabis is, available. I decided, why not do license agreements? Why not just link up with some dope growers who are already doing some phenomenal shit in the market, and then establish relationships, with distribution facilities and dispensaries, and just build your shit from the ground up, like through the streets. So that's kind of the approach that I'm taking. So once I get California, and so, hopefully within, this time next summer, we'll have some product in those markets, and I'm hoping that some opportunities in other markets open up. I know time's going to tell on a lot of things, but man, we're looking to take Elite Eight, across the globe.
Yeah, I wake up in the morning, have Junior gone out hustling. That boy always had money on his mind. He used to steal his daddy beer, sell it to his friends, hide the money. And one day we went to Memphis and come back, and Junior had like $85. Look, York said, boy, where you get that kind of money at? I know his daddy told him, boy, if you gonna do something, hell, sell you some weed.
To me, an entrepreneur is just a hustler. So yeah, I wanted to make my own money. I wanted to start my own businesses. I didn't know what that was. Growing up, I just wanted to make it out my town, and then I figured it out. Moving to California, all I needed was a place that had opportunity. I had 3 felonies, before I graduated high school. So, not only did I didn't want to take the traditional route that everybody else took, I couldn't. You're probably gonna have to shift your dream a couple times in your lifetime. You just gotta find that passion. Find what you love. You focus on the dollar amount, numbers never end. So you'll be running, that motherfucking rat race for the rest of your life. But you find that passion of yours, that bag end up chasing you in the long run. Shit. Man, if you want it, you gotta not rely on anybody and get on your own, and don't take opportunities for granted. And there are a lot of good people out there, that do a lot of good, and don't take those people and opportunities for granted either. Yeah, because a lot of people contributed to me getting to even being where I'm at, today. It took a village, and I don't take those people for granted. Yeah, my mom's still alive. Yeah, my pops, he passed away 2018. Yeah, bro, these niggas was crazy. You know, my dad was the most intelligent person I knew. You know, he wasn't able to put, all the necessary tools together. Yeah, but my dad, he didn't talk much about his upbringing at all. He didn't want me and my brother to grow up and live the life that he lived. Like I say, my dad never told me he played basketball. I found out the day before my dad died that he played basketball.
I haven't really thought about what I would tell, my daughter. Life's going to throw you, all type of unexpected curveballs. Surround yourself, by your family, people who love you, and just never give up. I want to inspire her to always to listen first, to hear other people's struggles and trials and tribulations, and that'll help her, understand, or put things into perspective whenever she's going through it. And for her to remember that, everybody's going through something in life. I want to set her standards high. If I set her standards high by represent myself the best way that I can, she'll expect them same standards. Not that I'm not ashamed of my past at all, because it made me who I am. And, I'll obviously show her where, daddy came from and all that. But, with all the trauma I went through, like, I just want to focus on, just giving this little girl the happiest life possible. So I'm not going to put a lot on her. I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to be a kid.
To my daughter, Zuri, I want to share with you the lessons life has taught me and the wisdom that I've gained along the way. I hope you understand that I always do my best to be there for you, supporting your dreams and guiding you through life's challenges. As you grow older, I want you to see me not only as a parent, but also a friend that you can confide in. Most importantly, remember that you are loved unconditionally. No matter where life takes you, always know that mommy and daddy will be here to support and encourage you. I'll be at every single dance recital and every single basketball game. You are my greatest joy, and seeing you grow has been the most rewarding gift in life. So, my precious Zuri, take these lessons to heart and remember that you're capable of achieving anything that you set your mind to. Embrace life with curiosity and courage, and I have no doubt that you'll find a path to happiness and success. Love is an understatement. Zuri, I adore you.